1 in 3 adults on this planet is constipated right now. Not occasionally, not once in a while after a bad meal, chronically, every single day. And here is the part that should genuinely stop you in your tracks. 90% of those people walk into a pharmacy, grab something off the shelf, and walk out with a product that is actively destroying the very organ they are trying to fix. They are paying their own money to cause permanent, irreversible damage to their own intestine. And they have absolutely no idea it is happening because the label says natural and plant-based, and that feels safe. I have spent 15 years watching this exact scenario play out in exam rooms over and over again, and I am done staying quiet about it because the system you trust to help you is not built around your recovery. It is built around your return visits. So today, that changes. Stay with me all the way through this video because what I am about to walk you through could genuinely save your gut from damage that cannot be undone. Let's start with the thing most people do first when constipation hits, and it also happens to be the thing that causes the most long-term harm. When your gut stops moving and the discomfort starts building, the instinct is to go to the drugstore, and the very first thing you see on that shelf, right at eye level, is a product made from senna leaves. It might have a different brand name depending on where you are. It might be in a fancy box with a green leaf on it. It might say gentle or natural or herbal. Different name, same formula. It is sold without a prescription. It is cheap. And that plant-based label is doing an enormous amount of work to hide a very ugly mechanism happening inside your body when you take it. Here is what senna actually does. Senna leaves contain chemical compounds called anthraquinone glycosides. Once these compounds reach your large intestine, they convert into their active form and begin aggressively irritating the nerve receptors embedded in the wall of the colon. And when those nerve receptors get hit hard enough, the colon responds with a violent, forceful spasm that pushes everything out. You feel relief, you think it worked, the problem is solved. But now let me tell you what is actually happening inside your gut after that relief fades. Because this is the part that nobody at the pharmacy counter is going to tell you. Your gut has its own independent nervous system called the enteric nervous system. And it behaves exactly like every other nervous system in your body. It adapts. When you hit it with the same aggressive irritant signal over and over again, it stops responding at the same level. The receptors literally burn out. Their sensitivity drops. The nerve fibers running through the wall of the colon begin to thin out and degenerate. And this is not a theory or an abstraction. These are measurable, visible, structural changes that show up under a microscope. This condition even has a clinical name. It is called cathartic colon, also known as melanosis coli. Melanosis means the actual wall of your colon physically darkens in color, turning brown and sometimes nearly black, because the cells lining the colon are dying in large numbers and depositing pigment as they die. A gastroenterologist performing a colonoscopy on someone who has used senna chronically will look into that colon and see something that resembles a dark, scorched pipe. And here's the most important thing you need to understand about those changes. They are irreversible. That colon does not come back. The damage is permanent. Let me show you exactly what this progression looks like in a real patient, because this timeline is something every person who has ever reached for a senna product needs to see. Week 1, 1 senna tablet works just fine. Week 3, it takes 2 tablets to get the same effect. Week 6, 3 tablets. Month 3, nothing moves without senna at all. The bowel has completely lost its ability to function independently. The patient came in with occasional mild constipation. They left with a permanent dependency on a laxative and irreversible structural damage to a vital organ. That is not an unfortunate side effect. That is the predictable, documented, clinically recognized outcome of regular senna use. It is not a rare reaction. It is the expected result. I never recommend senna-based laxatives. Not once. not as a short-term fix, not as an emergency measure, not under any circumstances. There is no clinical scenario I have ever encountered in 15 years of practice where destroying the nerve supply of your bowel is the right answer to any problem. So let's talk about what actually works. And when I say works, I mean works physiologically. Not just empties you out once and leaves you worse off than before, but genuinely restores real function to the intestine. What your gut actually needs is something that accomplishes 4 specific things simultaneously. It needs to gently stimulate peristalsis, which is the wave-like muscular contraction that moves food through your digestive tract from your stomach all the way to the exit. When those waves slow down or lose their coordination, constipation is the result. Simple as that. It also needs to coat and protect the lining of the gut. It needs to feed the beneficial bacteria living in your colon. And it needs to provide direct energy to the cells of the intestinal wall itself. 4 things at once. And the answer that delivers all 4 of them is something so simple and so affordable that it genuinely frustrates me how few doctors ever bring it up in appointments. Flaxseed. 2 tablespoons. Now before you click away because you have heard this before and tried it and it did not do much, stay with me. Because the way most people use flaxseed is completely wrong. And the wrong method delivers almost none of the therapeutic benefit. The difference between the right method and the wrong method is not subtle. It is the difference between something that genuinely heals your gut and something that does nothing and possibly makes things slightly worse. Flaxseed contains protein, fat, carbohydrates, and 2 distinct types of fiber that work through completely different mechanisms. Soluble fiber is the type that when it contacts water forms a gel, a thick, viscous, mucus-like substance. That gel is the primary therapeutic agent here. Insoluble fiber is the type that does not dissolve. It physically contacts the wall of the colon, providing a gentle mechanical massage that triggers muscle contractions. Together, these 2 fibers create a slow, steady, physiologically normal movement of intestinal contents. No spasm, no violence, no nerve damage, just normal, healthy motility. The medical term for how well and how consistently your gut moves. But here is where almost everyone gets it wrong. They eat the seeds dry. Dry flax seeds are hard, poorly digested, and they can actually scratch the mucosal lining, the delicate, soft inner surface of your gut. You absolutely need to soak them. Here is the exact protocol. Take 2 tablespoons of whole flax seeds. Cover them generously with room temperature water. Leave them overnight, a minimum of 8 to 10 hours. If you need to soak them for longer than 24 hours, move the bowl into the refrigerator. At room temperature, beyond that 24-hour window, the seeds begin to ferment. And instead of healing your gut, you will end up irritating it. Here's what happens during soaking that makes it so important. The outer shell of the seed softens, and the soluble fiber begins to leach out into the water, forming a thick gel around every single seed. That gel is the therapeutic agent. It coats the mucosal lining from your stomach all the way through to your colon. If you have gastritis, inflammation of the stomach lining, this gel reduces irritation and actively supports healing. If you have inflammation further down in the bowel, same protective effect. And physically, it creates a slick, lubricated environment inside the intestine that allows the contents to move dramatically more easily. Now pay close attention to this next point because it is one that people miss constantly. After soaking, do not rinse the flax seeds. Do not pour off the water they soaked in. That soaking liquid is loaded with soluble fiber and active therapeutic compounds. If you drain it down the sink, you have just thrown away the most valuable part of the entire preparation. Use the seeds and all of the soaking liquid together, every drop. Now add soaked sesame seeds to the mix. Sesame soaked overnight. And sesame is in this protocol for a reason that is clinically relevant, not just nutritionally interesting. Sesame is rich in calcium, and calcium is directly involved in the contraction of muscle cells, including the smooth muscle cells in the wall of your intestine. Without adequate calcium, those muscle cells contract poorly and weakly. Sesame also contains zinc, vitamin E, and polyunsaturated fatty acids, all of which support the structural integrity of the intestinal lining. Unlike flaxseed, sesame seeds can be rinsed through a fine strainer after soaking just to remove any surface debris before you use them. Now put the soaked flax seeds with all their liquid and the rinsed sesame seeds into a blender. And then you start adding the rest of the ingredients. Each one is in here for a specific physiological reason, not just for taste. Berries, any kind. Blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, black currants. Berries contain pectin, which is another form of soluble fiber with a well-documented anti-inflammatory effect on the intestinal lining. They also contain anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for their deep color, which are potent antioxidants that protect the mucosal cells of the gut from oxidative damage. Add a generous handful. Prunes, 3 or 4. The laxative effect of prunes has been recognized for thousands of years, and modern science has finally provided the full explanation. Prunes contain sorbitol, a natural sugar alcohol that draws water directly into the lumen of the intestine, the inner space where stool sits. More water in that space means softer, more mobile stool. Prunes also contain chlorogenic acids, compounds that have been shown in research to directly stimulate peristalsis. 3 or 4 prunes in this smoothie make a genuinely measurable difference to the outcome. Banana, ripe or slightly underripe, and each version has its own specific benefit. Banana provides natural sweetness and, critically, potassium. Potassium is an essential mineral for muscle function, including the smooth muscle of the intestinal wall. Potassium directly slows peristalsis. A slightly underripe banana additionally contains resistant starch, a type of carbohydrate that your small intestine cannot digest, so it passes intact all the way to your colon where it feeds the beneficial bacteria living there, directly improving your gut microbiome. A fully ripe banana provides faster energy and has a gentler effect on blood sugar. Either version works. Use what you have. Fresh greens, parsley, dill, cilantro, spinach, whatever is available to you. Greens supply chlorophyll, folate, vitamin K, and magnesium. And I want to spend a specific moment on magnesium because most people fundamentally misunderstand what it actually does in the gut and why it matters so much for constipation. Magnesium relaxes smooth muscle. And I know what you are thinking. That sounds counterintuitive. Shouldn't you want the intestinal muscle to contract if you are constipated? Here is the key insight that most people miss entirely. A significant portion of constipation is not caused by a sluggish colon that is barely moving. It is caused by a colon that is overcontracted, squeezing chaotically in uncoordinated spasms without producing any useful forward movement. Magnesium normalizes that rhythm. It resolves the spasm and restores coordinated productive muscle contractions that actually move things forward. On top of that, magnesium draws water osmotically into the intestinal lumen, softening the stool directly from the inside. 2 powerful mechanisms working simultaneously. Spices. Turmeric first. Turmeric contains curcumin, one of the most extensively studied natural anti-inflammatory compounds in existence. Over 3,000 peer-reviewed scientific publications have examined curcumin's effects on the gastrointestinal tract. The findings are remarkably consistent. Curcumin reduces mucosal inflammation, relieves intestinal spasm, and improves bile flow. And bile matters here more than most people realize. Bile is the digestive fluid your liver produces and your gallbladder stores. And bile directly stimulates intestinal motility. More bile flow means better peristalsis. Turmeric is not in this smoothie for color. It is in here because it has documented measurable effects on gut function. Cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity at the cellular level, reduces bloating, and has a mild antispasmodic effect on the intestine. Cardamom has been used for digestive disorders across multiple traditional medical systems for centuries, and modern research supports its use. It relieves nausea, stimulates the secretion of digestive enzymes, and reduces intestinal cramping. If you do not have flaxseed available, chia seeds are a valid substitute. The mechanism is similar. When soaked, chia seeds form a dense therapeutic gel. They are rich in omega-3 fatty acids and soluble fiber. Chia soaks significantly faster than flax. About 30 minutes is sufficient for chia seeds to form their gel. Once everything is in the blender, add a small amount of hot water before blending. This step is not optional. It is physiologically important. Cold food and cold liquids slow the movement of the gastrointestinal tract. This is a direct, documented effect of temperature on smooth muscle function. Warm food accelerates intestinal motility. You want the finished smoothie to be warm, not scalding. Warm. Blend everything smooth. Then at the very end, after blending, add 1 to 2 tablespoons of cold pressed vegetable oil. Oil serves 2 distinct functions here. It lubricates the intestinal wall from the inside, reducing the physical resistance to stool movement, and it dramatically improves the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K from the greens and berries you just blended. Without fat present in the same meal, these vitamins are simply not absorbed. They pass through your system completely unused. The oil is not optional. Now I need to address something directly, because I see it cause harm regularly. The packaged fiber products sold in pharmacies and supermarkets, the ones in bags labeled fiber supplement or wheat bran for constipation. Here is what those products actually are. Dry, hard particles that have not been soaked and have not formed a protective gel. Dry bran does not have the protective mucilage that soaked flaxseed produces. It is abrasive. In a colon that is already moving slowly and has insufficient water content, dry fiber particles do not slide through easily. They adhere to the intestinal wall. They can sit there for an extended period. Instead of stimulating peristalsis, they create additional resistance and slow things down further. The effect is directly opposite to what the packaging promises. Soaked whole seeds only. Never dry powders from a bag. The smoothie goes in the morning, after you have already had water. And water is the next thing we need to talk about seriously, because without it, everything else I have described works at significantly reduced capacity. Constipation and chronic dehydration are almost always the same story, presenting in 2 different ways. Here is the mechanism. As food moves through your large intestine, the colon actively absorbs water from the contents. That is a completely normal physiological process. But when you are chronically dehydrated, your body shifts into conservation mode. The colon pulls even more water than usual from the intestinal contents, leaving behind stool that is dry, dense, and essentially immobile. The stool physically adheres to the intestinal wall. That is the mechanism of dehydration-driven constipation. And it is extraordinarily common. The fix begins the moment you wake up. Before coffee, before food, before anything else. You drink half a liter of warm water slowly, not in one gulp. Your stomach and intestine need time to receive it properly. Warm water activates something called the gastrocolic reflex, an involuntary automatic reflex where the filling of the stomach sends a nerve signal directly to the large intestine to begin strong peristaltic contractions and prepare for evacuation. This is actually why many people feel the urge to use the bathroom shortly after their morning coffee. Most people assume it is the caffeine. Doing that, it is not. It is the warm liquid triggering the gastrocolic reflex. We are using exactly the same biological mechanism, just without the caffeine and without the gastric acid stimulation that coffee causes. Now let's talk about mineral water, because not all mineral water does the same thing, and the difference matters enormously for this protocol. The key variable is total dissolved mineral content, also called mineralization. To have a real therapeutic effect on constipation, water needs a mineralization of at least 4 grams per liter. Waters in that range are classified as medicinal. They work osmotically. the dissolved salts in the water attract fluid into the intestinal lumen, physically softening the stool from the inside. Magnesium-rich mineral waters deserve special attention. As I explained with dietary magnesium, the magnesium in medicinal water relaxes intestinal spasm and draws fluid into the colon simultaneously, both mechanisms working at the same time. One rule about packaging that is absolutely non-negotiable: buy mineral water in glass bottles only. This is not an environmental preference. This is chemistry. Plastic releases microparticles and chemical compounds, including bisphenol A and related substances, when it contacts liquid. Saline mineral water is more chemically aggressive than plain water and leaches these substances from plastic more intensively than regular water does. Research published in recent years has detected microplastic particles in human blood, in lung tissue, and in the placentas of pregnant women. According to data from multiple scientific publications, the average human body has now accumulated enough microplastics to manufacture a full plastic credit card. Glass is chemically inert. It does not interact with what is stored inside it. Glass only, no exceptions. Before drinking your mineral water, degauss it. Open the bottle, pour it into a glass, let it sit for a few minutes, and stir it gently with a spoon. Let the carbonation dissipate. This matters because carbonated water in an already slow, underperforming intestine produces gas, bloating, and pain. You do not need additional gas load on a gut that is already struggling. Drink it warm and completely flat. One important caution about high mineralization medicinal water: it is a therapeutic agent, not a daily beverage in unlimited quantities. Sustained high intake puts a significant mineral and salt load on your kidneys and your cardiovascular system. If you have hypertension or any kidney condition, this is especially important to keep in mind. 1 to 2 glasses on an empty stomach in the morning during an active episode of constipation is the appropriate therapeutic dose. For everyday hydration outside of active treatment, use regular drinking water or a low mineralization water under 1 gram per liter. Here is what to realistically expect when you run this full protocol. And I want you to build this expectation in from day one so you do not give up too early. The effect is cumulative. Do not wait for something dramatic on the first morning. By day 2 or 3, the heaviness and bloating that has been sitting in your abdomen will begin to ease. Any abdominal discomfort or cramping will reduce or resolve. By day 4 or 5, the bowel starts moving actively and consistently. In some patients, the initial response is impressively thorough. The body begins clearing what has been accumulating over days or weeks. That is not a problem. That is the expected, healthy, physiological response of an organ that has finally been given what it needs to function properly. Here is something worth understanding about how age changes all of this. After the age of 45, intestinal motility naturally slows down. Digestive enzyme production decreases. The sensitivity of nerve receptors in the intestinal wall diminishes. The volume of protective mucus produced by the intestinal lining drops. These are normal changes of aging, not disease, just biology. But they mean that what resolves in 2 days for a 30-year-old may require a more systematic, sustained approach for someone in their 50s or 60s. The protocol I have described works at every age, but the timeline and the level of consistency required differ based on where you are. How old are you right now? Write it in the comments below. I genuinely want to know which age groups are watching this channel, because the next videos I make on digestive health are going to be built around where you actually are, not around some hypothetical average patient who does not really exist. So here is exactly what you do the moment this video ends. Tonight, take 2 tablespoons of whole flax seeds and cover them generously with room temperature water. If you have sesame seeds, soak those separately at the same time. Leave everything overnight for a minimum of 8 to 10 hours. And if you have senna-based laxatives anywhere in your home right now, in your medicine cabinet, in a bathroom drawer, anywhere, remove them. They damage the nerve supply of your colon with repeated use and create a dependency that is genuinely difficult to reverse. That is not an opinion. That is documented, named, clinically recognized pathology. Tomorrow morning, drink half a liter of warm water first, slowly, before anything else. Then make the smoothie. Soaked flaxseed with all of its soaking liquid. Sesame seeds after a quick rinse. Whatever berries you have. 3 or 4 prunes, a banana, a generous handful of fresh greens, turmeric and cinnamon at minimum, a splash of hot water to bring the temperature up. 1 to 2 tablespoons of cold-pressed oil added at the very end after blending. Blend it completely smooth. If you want to strengthen the effect further, add a glass of warm, degassed, high mineralization mineral water, 4 grams per liter or above, from a glass bottle on an empty stomach before the smoothie. Run this protocol for 5 to 7 consecutive days. Your bowel will respond. Your doctor has 12 minutes with you at a standard appointment. There is no billing code for sitting down and teaching you how to restore your gut function with flaxseed and mineral water. The healthcare system is simply not structured for that conversation. I know, because I have been working inside it for 15 years. I have watched people pay money for products that damage them when the real solution cost almost nothing and was sitting in their kitchen the whole time. This channel exists because that conversation needs to happen somewhere. If this video gave you something genuinely useful today, something your doctor has never sat down and explained to you, then do me one favor. Hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second and it helps this information reach the people who need it most. Drop your age in the comments below because I am reading every single one and building the next videos around your real questions. And subscribe to this channel because we are growing fast. And every subscriber is someone who decided they want real information instead of another pharmacy recommendation that keeps them coming back.